Sagittarius, a heart-wrenching farewell, but an unexpected surge of wealth. All at once. You were never meant to live a life that shrinks you. You were born to roam with the wind, to follow the truth even when it trembles, and to love so fiercely that when something leaves, it tears open not just your heart, but the sky you built around it. This message found you for a reason, not because you are lost, but because you are shedding, because something or someone has recently walked out of your life, and while part of you may still ache, another part already knows. This isn't just an ending. It's a rearrangement of fate. Right now you may feel like you're standing barefoot on the edge of an emotional cliff, breath shallow, heart heavy, yet strangely free. And that's not a contradiction. That's the universe making space for something real, something radiant, something you once thought was too much to ask for. This isn't a coincidence, Sagittarius. A quiet wave of abundance is coming your way. Not because you chased it, but because you finally stopped chasing what was never yours. Before we begin, I ask you this. If your heart hears even one sentence that feels like home, leave a soft sign. A like, a share, or a comment. Not for me, but for the universe to witness that you're ready. Ready for peace. Ready for prosperity. Ready to receive. Now take a deep breath. Your soul has waited lifetimes for this. Let's walk together into the story that's unfolding. Not as a prediction, but as a remembrance of who you truly are becoming. Gate 1. The goodbye that broke you open and why it had to happen. Sagittarius, you're not unfamiliar with movement. You've wandered through relationships, cities, chapters, always trusting that motion would lead you somewhere meaningful. But this time something shifted. A goodbye arrived not as a door closing, but as an echo you couldn't ignore. It didn't come in flames, but in silence. And somehow that silence was louder than any explosion. You thought you were ready for this ending. Maybe you even convinced yourself it wasn't that big. But when the goodbye came, be it a breakup, a fading friendship, the loss of a job, or the sudden disappearance of someone you trusted, it didn't just leave a space. It tore through your center like a wave crashing into a cliff that thought it was indestructible. And here's the truth, it was supposed to. Because for far too long, Sagittarius, you've been carrying dreams that weren't yours. Smiling when your heart was in knots. Giving light to people who never asked how you were still glowing. And deep down you knew. You knew that something had to give. This goodbye wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. Think of a sculptor chipping away at stone. The form was always there. The sculptor just removes what's not essential. This moment of loss is your sculptor. It is removing what no longer belongs. And what remains is you raw, real, and finally free from the pressure to pretend. Let me share a story. A Sagittarius woman named Lena had built her entire identity around her long-term partner. They were together for 9 years. Everyone thought they were perfect. But what no one knew was how Lena kept silencing her passions, her art, her travel dreams, her laughter, to maintain peace in a relationship that stopped seeing her. When he left, her world collapsed. But months later, standing alone in a gallery in Portugal, watching a stranger weep at one of her paintings, she realized, I didn't lose love. I found myself. Sometimes the very thing that breaks you is the only thing strong enough to break you open. Sagittarius, you are ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, truth, and higher purpose. You are not meant to carry outdated versions of yourself. Your growth demands shedding. And yes, it hurts. Letting go often feels like betrayal. But in truth, what you're letting go of is the expectation to stay small, to stay silent, to stay somewhere you've already outgrown. You may be wondering, why now? Why this? Because the universe heard the quiet prayer you whispered when no one was listening. The one that said, I want more. I want peace. I want to live fully. And so, this goodbye arrived. But it didn't come alone. Right behind it, quietly, softly, a wave of abundance began moving toward you. Not as compensation, not as distraction, but as alignment. What if I told you that the very moment your heart shattered, the energy field around you began expanding? What if I told you that your grief carved out space for something bigger, something golden, to pour in? You may not see it yet, but the rain is coming. A rain of opportunity, of connection, of wealth, both emotional and material. All flowing in not because you earned it through pain, but because you released what blocked it. Think of the tree that loses its leaves in fall. Does it mourn the loss? No. prepares for something deeper. It retreats inward, trusting that spring will come. You, Sagittarius, are entering your winter-spring threshold. What feels like emptiness is sacred space being cleared. What feels like isolation is incubation for the next version of you. Let me ask you this. Who were you before the world told you who to be? Before you had to compromise for love, for survival, for acceptance? That person, that wild, curious, radiant spirit, is returning. And the catalyst was the goodbye. Let's pause here. Close your eyes for a moment. Place your hand on your heart and ask, what did this goodbye teach me? Maybe it taught you that love isn't supposed to be earned, that your worth doesn't decrease because someone couldn't stay, that it's okay to want more, to start again, to cry and be powerful at the same time. Now, imagine the version of you on the other side of this chapter. They're not bitter. They're not empty. They are vibrant, focused, rooted, overflowing with gratitude, not for the pain but for the clarity it brought. Sagittarius, you are a fire sign. And fire doesn't just destroy, it transforms. What's burning away now is everything that no longer supports the future you're stepping into. It's not the ending that defines you, it's what you begin after. And so I ask you, as your guide, as your mirror, what are you ready to begin? Gate 2, the unexpected rain of money. Why it was waiting for you all along. Sagittarius, most people believe that abundance arrives only through hard work, discipline, and constant motion. But for you, the truth is far more spiritual. Your path is not about control. It's about alignment. The universe was never testing your work ethic. It was testing your willingness to trust in your own truth. When you let go of what no longer serves you, relationships, obligations, beliefs, you do more than create space. You invite the very blessings that have been circling you for years, waiting for a moment of stillness to finally land. There's a reason the goodbye you experienced in Gate 1 left you so open, so raw, and so bare. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Because for Sagittarius, wealth doesn't arrive when you're busy proving your worth. It arrives when you remember that you've never had to. Right now, something is shifting beneath the surface of your life. And though it may seem unrelated to money, a conversation, a dream, a sudden desire to clean out your space, these are signals. They mean your soul is finally ready to receive. I want to tell you about a woman named Lynn, a Sagittarius who had been stuck in a stagnant business partnership for years. She was overworked, underpaid, and slowly losing her spark. But she stayed because she believed she needed that partnership to survive. Then one day, her partner announced he was leaving. No explanation, no preparation. It devastated her. But within 2 weeks, something miraculous happened. A former client reached out with a consulting opportunity. Then another. Then another. Within 3 months, Lynn had made more money than she had in a year. All while working less, doing what she loved. What changed wasn't her skills. It was her energy. She had finally stopped clinging to what made her feel small. Sagittarius, this is your season of release and restoration. The abundance that's approaching is not a reward for your suffering. It's a response to your authenticity. But you must let go of the idea that you have to chase it. You don't. You only need to align with it. You only need to stop betraying your own intuition. The job you stayed in because of fear, the person you kept forgiving because you were scared to be alone, the belief that money is only for others, these things were never part of your true frequency. And now they're dissolving. Not because you forced them to, but because your soul said, I'm ready to live in truth. This doesn't mean the path ahead will be without challenge. It means that for the first time, you're not building from desperation. You're building from alignment. The wealth you're calling in now is not just financial. It is creative, emotional, spiritual. It may come as a new offer, a surprising check, a collaboration you never expected, or a quiet inner peace that finally lets you sleep at night. Whatever form it takes, it is sacred. And it belongs to you. You must also know this. Abundance doesn't thrive in cluttered spaces. Physical, emotional, or energetic. So if your soul has felt the urge to clear out a drawer, end an old conversation, or say no to something you once tolerated, that's not coincidence. That's readiness. That's your energy field making room for what you actually desire. You're not being asked to perform. You're being asked to return. Return to your natural state of expansion, of truth, of joy. Here's your reminder. You do not have to choose between peace and prosperity. You do not have to prove yourself through struggle to be worthy of overflow. And you are fully allowed to receive. Without guilt. Without apology. Without delay. Sagittarius, when you finally stop resisting what your soul has known all along, life doesn't just shift, it opens. Doors swing. Ideas spark. People appear. And above all, money, real, sustainable, aligned money, begins to flow in the way it was always meant to. Gently, abundantly, and without fear. This is not a promise from me. It is a memory from your future self. One that says, you made it. You let go. And everything that was waiting for you finally found its way home. Gate 3, the final key. Living in overflow without fear. Sagittarius, it's one thing to desire abundance. It's another to actually allow it. Because once the blessings arrive, the opportunities, the support, the love, the financial flow, something deep within you may whisper, do I really deserve this? That whisper is not truth. It is the echo of every moment you were taught that thriving must be earned through suffering. That joy must come after the storm, not during it. But today you are being invited to rewrite that narrative. Not just with your words, but with your very presence. The final key is not effort. It's receptivity. It's the willingness to live in overflow without fear of being punished, without guilt for having more, without the need to shrink yourself to remain palatable. Because Sagittarius, your abundance doesn't take anything away from others. It expands the field for everyone. When you thrive, when you live in your truth unapologetically, when you receive joyfully, you become evidence for someone else that it's possible. But there's something that no one tells you. Living in overflow is a spiritual responsibility, not a burden, a devotion. You are no longer running on fumes. You are no longer surviving. Now you are stewarding blessings. That means treating your time like gold, protecting your peace like a sacred fire, and choosing your next steps not from fear but from resonance. And most importantly, it means no longer apologizing for your light. I want to share a moment with you, one that changed a life. There was a Sagittarius man named Javier who spent years giving and giving. He volunteered, helped his family financially, showed up for everyone, but inside he was exhausted. One day, he inherited a modest sum from an aunt he barely knew. The money wasn't life-changing in amount, but what was life-changing was the silence that came with it. For the first time in years, he didn't have to say yes to everything. He had breathing space. He didn't rush to spend it. He didn't donate it out of guilt. Instead, he sat with it. He asked himself, what do I want to build that I've never allowed myself to imagine? That moment of pause created a ripple effect. Within a year, Javier launched a podcast that not only brought him income but also community. The money wasn't the gift. The permission was. Sagittarius, your overflow is not just for pleasure. It's for power. The kind that arises when your nervous system finally relaxes, when your inner child no longer fears being left behind, when your adult self chooses joy not as a reward but as a right. But this final gate asks one thing of you: stop hiding. Stop editing your dreams. Stop pretending your vision is too much. It's not. It was planted within you for a reason. You don't have to force it. You only have to follow it. And that brings us to the most sacred part: integration. The blessings you seek will not arrive when you fix yourself. They will arrive when you accept yourself. Your shadows, your softness, your spontaneity, the messy brilliance of your becoming. Because the universe does not respond to perfection. It responds to permission. Give yourself permission, Sagittarius, to live in joy, to walk in ease, to receive without guilt, to build without burnout, to love without losing yourself, and to exist as a being who doesn't just believe in miracles, but becomes one. Your final task isn't to run faster, work harder, or sacrifice more. It is to pause, look at your life, and ask, where am I still holding back, just because I'm afraid of fully receiving? Then do the radical thing. Choose to receive anyway. That choice will change everything. Conclusion: the sacred rebirth of Sagittarius. Sagittarius, if you've made it here, something inside you already knows. This isn't just another message. This is a return to a version of yourself that never needed fixing, only remembering. From the first moment of loss that cracked your chest open to the unexpected wave of blessings that now beckon, your journey was never about punishment. It was preparation. You are not here by mistake. And everything you thought you were losing was simply being rearranged to make space for a life that fits you better. Let this be the moment you stop waiting for the outside world to give you permission. Let this be the breath where you say, softly but surely, I am ready. Ready to release what no longer mirrors your light. Ready to welcome the unexpected abundance without guilt. Ready to walk forward, not carrying every past version of you, but blessing them for bringing you here. You are not just healing, you are expanding. You are not just surviving. You are embodying your truth in a way that nourishes you and liberates others. And that, dear Sagittarius, is your power. Not loud, not forced, but real. From this moment forward, let your words be prayers, your silence be sacred, your dreams be non-negotiable. You are stepping into a life that no longer demands you to dim your flame to make others comfortable. Your radiance is not a threat. It is an invitation. So walk on, with tenderness, with boldness, with reverence for the soul that has endured, chosen truth, and now chooses joy. This is your beginning. And this time you are not chasing the light. You are becoming it.